This conference will now be recorded.
So, couple of things. We've been losing bandwidth to transmit over the Wi-Fi system here. So if you got computers or phones on and you're using the Wi-Fi for here, I would ask if you turn it off so that we can hopefully stay connected. Thank you. One other thing, last time we had pretty informal gathering here where people were allowed to speak while they were sitting down or in the back or whatever. This time what we did is we set up a table here so you can actually come and sit in a chair so you don't have to stand out in the wind. And then we can get you on the microphone. Try to keep it to 3 minutes if you can. If it's more important than that, we're going to give you whatever time you need.
Name and address.
And then we ask that you give your name and just for the record. I don't believe we need their addresses, do we? Why would we need their addresses?
You don't, you can ask for that, but you don't.
Yeah, I don't believe we need their addresses. Does it matter? We're all one community, correct?
Yeah, but you've got separate sections, and Case Drive is different than Newport Drive. I would like to know what my neighbors on Newport are feeling, but I don't know my neighbors on Newport, and I don't know anybody from Stellamar North or anything over on Case Drive. So.
Okay, give your addresses as well then, please. That's fine.
Or even just the community would be cool.
What?
You know, and even the community, like Newport, or like, I've got something, I'll just tell them that I'm from.
Oh, okay, that might be
So that
easier.
we know, you know.
Okay, that's fine, however you want to do it.
Days, whatever.
Oh, also, last time, we spoke about a lot of different things. One of them, for instance, was the landscaping out on 41, as well as how we do our water billing and so forth. I want to make it perfectly clear to everybody. We are looking at everything in here. When we bring up a subject such as landscaping, we are not as a board advocating for it or against it. All we're saying is, let's find out what this is costing us, how the people feel about it, and give people the options of how they want this handled. If we've got something and we want to pay for it, all good and fine. But this is a community that we want the input from. And if people feel that the water bill should be handled the way that exactly they are done now, all good and fine. We're looking for input. We're not looking to tell you what we're going to do. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Then let's move on. Consideration of the possible direction of district council regarding the prep MAC litigation. We just had a closed door session on, as you all well know. What do we need to speak on that?
You've already taken care of that, Mr. Chairman.
We have?
Yes.
Okay,
the
sorry.
direction that you took.
You should have a roll call.
Roll call.
Do you want me to do it?
Do it.
Okay. Mr. Baird,
Present.
Ms. Hanson,
Present.
Mr. Kish, Mr. Truckee,
Here.
and Mr. McNamee.
Yes.
Sir, you have a quorum.
And pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And next is the approval of the agenda. I understand our field manager is here, and so we would like to bump him up to next, if that's okay. Any objections? Anything else that you want to change on the agenda?
We're going to have Mitch here from the sewer plant, water sewer plant, and we have some things about the tours on business 14A.
Can we move him
I'd
up?
like to move that up to utility operations. And then we have some grant questions in here. Where was the grant? Things about the grant. If we can move that up to the utility operations, we could discuss the FEMA grants at the same time.
Good. Yeah, we'll get The people don't need to stay here longer, we'll get them out first. So at this time, we would like to talk to our field manager.
Chris, just sit right there.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
I'm with Community Field Services. I work under Calvin Teague as your field manager for here. So I know, you see my reports on a monthly basis. They've been getting emailed out to you guys. And so pretty much today we can go over the report.
Could you pull the mic closer? Sure. There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
We need to get a better mic. You almost have to put your lips on that mic to make.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Stay too close or speak up a little bit for you guys. So as mentioned, I am your field manager, so I'm out here once a month and I look at all of the CID assets for you guys and kind of see if there's anything unusual going on, if I see anything, any damage, any structured issues, stormwater management system, and then I compile all of that information every month, put it into this report and send it out to you guys. Did you guys want to go through this? Any highlights, or was there anything in particular? If there's any questions you have? I mean, I can go over just a couple highlights, what I saw during the previous month, if you like.
My biggest question was,
Page 35. Page 35. in the book.
sorry. Oh, that you had a list of things, and I think it went back to like August, of things that needed to be done. Like, for instance, trash in the pond.
Email I gave you,
And then,
so-
and then you had another column on that that says, basically where we're at on that.
Okay.
And I just noticed that everything from August through November was pending as far as doing anything on. So I'm wondering, yeah, I understand we're bringing it out as to, we have a deficiency, but it doesn't look as though
We're
addressing
addressing
any.
these after the hurricane, because we were the technicians only approved to be out here once a day every month. So there is a list that he's trying to go through and catching up on items. So with the hurricane that came into play, we've been kind of pushed back all of the lower priority items on here, like trash and ponds and stuff like that. And I've been focusing on other hurricane related things to try to get them caught up on those things. And then as we progress, this stuff's gonna get knocked out fairly quickly.
Okay, so you're here one day a month.
The technicians.
Okay. So the rest of the, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The technicians you said are here once?
Just, yeah, I'm out here once a month doing the inspections, and then the technician's out here once a month for whatever's on the punch list, and he knocks out as much as he can. And I've been having him reroute a lot of this stuff to address more of the hurricane sensitive issues, trying than the stuff that's been on the report for a couple of months now.
So can you tell me what we've done in the last couple of months?
I know the last month was, they were out here addressing all of the sign issues from the hurricane. So they restraightened a lot of those. We had to order a couple of brackets because they were rusted out. So we have those coming in. So the next month when he's back out here, he'll be addressing some more street sign issues along with filling in additional holes on the Union Road, right where the pavement meets the asphalt, the dirt. We're going to be filling those back in. So that was last month. They did a little bit of that. And then the month before that, I think there was some vegetation stuff we had to do along with some more additional concrete work back there.
Are those tasks billed to us separate than your contract?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so your contract is oversight only.
Oversight and claims.
Okay.
I have a question. You have a punch list? How is it formatted? Is it something that we could see?
Yep, it's on the field report.
Yeah.
So I believe it's, if you're just looking at the field report alone, it's on page 11 or 34. It says maintenance follow-up actions.
My page 34 is this.
Yes, that's his report.
Now, what I'm talking about is, do you have an Excel spreadsheet that lists the item recognized, what the corrective action is, and what?
Right here,
Yep, it's on
Page
the last
45.
page of the field report.
45. Well, that's Soto's anyway.
I didn't see his anywhere in here.
45. No. Yeah, that's what I was just talking to him about. they've identified a lot of tasks, but I don't see that any of them have been
Right.
addressed.
Okay,
I have a question on the ponds.
everything's on
We
here?
have Earth Guard that works with the ponds,
Everything's not on here?
Correct, yes.
right? And it seems to be we have some redundancy. So they would take care of the weeds in the ponds and things, right?
Correct. I believe his contract, he's out here every other week for you guys doing spot treatments. And his method is he doesn't like to aggressively attack all of the weeds around the shorelines all at once so that you have a brown look, a brown ring around the entire ponds. So he's more of a selective treatments. So yeah, you see a lot of potato grass always in the ponds. And he is making progress towards getting that resolved. But like I said, he does like either one pond 1 week, 1 month, and then the next month he'll be out here treating the other pond. So it is a slow cycle.
It's also dry season limits you, that's how much you can spray.
Correct. With the herbicides for the lakes, they have to follow what the label instructed. So they can only treat the ponds every 14 days. That's what they have to follow, whatever the label says.
Now, that work that's being done who's approving the work?
For EarthGuard,
For any of these tasks that you were saying that you would do, like the signs, are you told, go ahead and just do it, or are we given a price ahead of time as to what it's going to cost us, or how does that work?
usually it's just you have like a daily rate for the technician to be out here. And that was previously approved just to have once a day, once a month to have them come out here and follow up on any miscellaneous tasks, whether it's clearing out the stormwater structures, whether it's treating the signs from the hurricane, or if something's reported to us, like, hey, Chris, can you take care of that? We go ahead and we add it to the list to have things taken care of.
And that's done on an hourly basis.
Or is it, do you know offhand what that rate is?
I'm sorry, what's
Do
that?
you know offhand what that rate is?
It's $41 an hour.
41.
Now, we just had graffiti on the bridge out here, which of course is a highway bridge and whatnot. And so pictures were taken of that, and then somebody went to the county and asked, for that to be taken care of. Would that not normally fall under your privy?
It did. I was the one that caught that.
But I understand that, but I just got an invoice for over $400 that we paid an engineer to do that work. So I'm just curious why we weren't paying you $41 an hour to do it versus $200 an hour to do it by an engineer.
I'm not sure how that fell. I reported the issue and then it was reported back that it was taken care of. So I was never given any direction to take care
Gotcha.
of it.
I
But no,
yeah.
it's something that we could have done, yes.
Okay, good. Any other things, Kevin, anything?
The rate, which he told you, but what the board had, the previous board had approved was a not to exceed 500.
Okay.
So and it's always quite a bit under that.
Not to exceed 500 for
Per month, is that?
No, 500 per month,
per month
yes,
for the technician.
for the technician, yes.
And sometimes if we do have a larger, or before the hurricane, there was times where if we're not out here 1 month, we might double up on the following month if I know it's gonna be a little bit longer project. So rather than, coming out here 1 day, 1 month, I would postpone it and then have 2 days in 1 month. So it equals out the counts.
All right.
Okay, hang on just a second. Cal, on the FEMA grants, what's the deadline for FEMA to get these dollars, these things paid for and get our receipts together for FEMA reimbursement?
Well, we don't have to have all the invoices together, but we do have to, have a projection. And that's by the end of June.
End of January. Okay, so all this stuff where we have street signs and we have we have salt kill on some of these plants and stuff when the waters came up and killed some of the plants, things like that. I think that some of the alligatoring that you talked about in the street, that's gotten a lot worse very recently, right? I think that some of that may be from the floodwaters and everything, the bed being softened by our floodwaters and things. All that stuff, if we're going to try to get reimbursement from FEMA for that, that all has to be moving along so we can meet the deadline, or at least have our dollars.
Sure,
together
like
by the
you
end
have
of January.
estimates in for the asphalt repairs, so I think today you'll be discussing, 2 quotes.
Well, I marked a few things in the book here that you had that I thought maybe would come under FEMA, possibly from the floodwaters. So we have street signs, we have the alligatoring, we have any of the things that, dead grasses, we have some kill, some of the things that.
Over on one of the ponds,
Right.
okay?
So I think that all those items, salt intrusion, whatever, I think that that's definitely stuff that we could put together and put in for FEMA reimbursement.
Sure. And I'll get with council office on that, we can go over it and see what we want to try to
We
pick
do
up
have
on.
the street signs on
Okay.
How are we doing on the road out to the wells? Has that been trimmed back?
Last month, during my last inspection, no, so I can't get out to the wells right now because it's very encroached.
Okay. And you don't go out there unless you can drive, right?
Correct.
I
I take my vehicle out there. I go
Gotcha.
as far as I can, and usually at the 90-degree bend, that's where I can only stop
Yep.
to, and that's where I can check for that. For that, it gets really tight over there.
Understood.
We're going to be working on the road real shortly because that's going to fall under the FEMA reimbursement also because that road sunk and.
Correct, right at that turn that we're.
Well, all the way down to the
Gotcha, okay.
wells. And Mitch will be working with Mitch on that to do that. One other thing, you have culverts in your thing here where you're talking about the silt that spilled the culverts.
Correct, yep.
All right, that would be a
it.
FEMA,
It's just a FEMA tracking.
with all the waters that came through, that's definitely.
I don't see why not, why I couldn't, for sure.
So those are gonna get cleaned out shortly?
Correct, that's on our maintenance task for next month, when he's back out here.
As far as that Union Road and patching those holes there, it just seems like that's a losing battle, doesn't it?
Correct, because we went out there, I think it was 2 months ago, we filled in everything that was visible except for the microscopic ones. The next month when I'm back out there looking at them again, they're a foot wide.
Are we not better off than just putting sand and rock into those, every few weeks or whatever it takes? Because realistically, that road's completely shot in those spots, and just to keep paying to put Band-Aids on it seems like a waste of money.
From what I've seen on the dirt side of the road, even if we just, it gets regraded, I think it's gonna happen, the same thing's gonna happen on the asphalt side. So if we fill those holes with rock, it's gonna.
Of course.
Yeah. But right now, we're actually putting, Quikrete on it.
Okay.
So we're
How much do you
putting
suppose we're spending to do that?
I think in total so far, maybe with Quikrete, we spent under $200.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions for our field manager? Thank you for your time.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
All right, next,
Just a quick comment. What I just handed out to you, that's the FEMA tracking. And you can see the 26,000, that's what's actually been paid. And then the projects and projected costs, that's the list. We can add to it or whatever. So as soon as we start getting some numbers, we'll put it in the right column there. But this is what we're submitting at this point in time.
would there be a problem with putting this on our website?
I don't know how it'll go. We might be able to put it on as a link.
Well, I want to share what I'm seeing today. I want them to see it. It's not in our agenda packet today. So if it's possible, would you do that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Also gives the community an opportunity to point out things that we don't necessarily know about.
Yes, that's another thing. We went through this hurricane. We might not be seeing all the things that we could possibly turn a claim in on. So if you guys have got any information or whatever, share it with one of us, please.
Yeah, but you have to keep in mind that we can only claim for damage to public property. So
Absolutely.
if there was damage to the clubhouse here,
Right.
we couldn't file that.
Understood.
If somebody had lost plants from
Right.
salt intrusion on their private property, we couldn't claim that.
Absolutely.
Right now, it looks like we're at proposed total dollar amounts, $66,000.
On top of that, that doesn't include the 26. So you're
Okay,
almost
no,
100,000.
Almost 100,000. We have a few more items I see that we can pick up yet.
All
There's
right.
5 items not on that have no cost next to them.
Moving on.
In the field manager's report, mosquito spraying is actually in there. I had a question on mosquito spraying. We're spraying every 2 or 3 days sometimes. I think the budget, it's going to get into the financials, but we had budgeted a couple $1,000s or whatever, and we're 1,700, I think, and we're like 3,000 something. So we must be spraying way more than we usually do.
We could. A lot of it depends on the number of complaints that we get. And I think that Russ has kind of been the recipient of that.
So would the person who has the portfolio for landscaping, would the mosquito spraying go under that, you think, boys, girls? Who do you want to handle that?
I can handle.
You want to handle mosquito spraying?
Yeah, I think it should be.
So maybe you can work with Russ's son, who we have the contract with, and just get some feedback to see if we got to try to rein in the number. Sure. Thank you.
Does anybody know if the county still does a count out here? They used to.
Mosquito count?
They used to have a
They're
trap.
not doing any counts. That was done locally. Two of the residents were both in
County
that
people?
field, and they were doing it. One was Derlin Fish, and the other one I think was Mr. Anderson. But they were doing the counts.
When I first moved here, the county came out and they had a trap in the tree across the street from me. And I saw the lady come out.
And
So-
they haven't shared that information with us. I know Patrick, so I could see if they're doing it.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason I know is there was a weird thing in the tree and this lady came out like once a week to empty it. I was like, what is that?
Okay, one other thing that I forgot to bring up at the beginning here is that we're going to have what we call portfolios for the different board members. And this is how I'd like to assign them. The utilities, the sewer and water plant is going to be handled mainly by Dan and assisted by Annalise.
Mr. Beckman,
Sorry?
you just have to be careful when you say assisted because sunshine law, they cannot communicate together on anything.
I understand that,
Well,
but
he's not
if they have, if somebody has an issue, they can call either one of them.
Okay, that's separate. Okay.
Yeah, separate. Landscaping, Kevin's going to take care of landscaping and now also mosquitoes. Russ is going to take care of streets. I will take care of financials. Stormwater and drainage, Annalise will be the main character and backed up with Dan. So we'll try to get that out so that now you have a person that it isn't somebody else's job all the time. It's one particular person's job who's responsible to answer the questions of the community, and they will also probably have some fact-finding committees that they will establish also to assist us in each one of these and have more input from the community that way.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that any committees be established by the board so that the parameters of the committees are well known. And also that way, we will also have sunshine law seminars for the committee members. I know the fact finding, just so they understand their role.
Several of us went through that training this week.
But I'm talking about the committee members.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha,
I understand.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they can want, I've seen.
Never thought of that.
Good
You're right.
groups, they kind of wander off.
Good idea. Okay, so that's where we are in that.
Plus, roadway lighting, we've got some issues coming up on that. That could go under Russ's.
Correct.
streets.
Streets and lighting, let's
Make
call it
sure-
streets and lighting.
Make
Okay.
sure that goes down with us.
Okay, next we'll have Mitch. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just had a comment on the.
Steve
mosquito-
Gunther?
Yeah, Steve Gunther, the Cove, thank you. On the mosquito spraying, I thought I saw something on Nextdoor where it was going to be transitioned over to the county, but this was a few months ago. I don't know. Something for you guys to look into that the county might come out and spray.
They came and put a presentation on here one time about doing that. I don't know where it went from there.
It went to the county, and then the county pretty much approved it, but they have to get their boundaries expanded, and that takes the state legislature to do it. So it came back, and now it's back there. But,
So no time
there's still, POI is still included in it. And, he'd like to see in 23, October of 23,
Right.
it would be included.
If you're
That's
interested
what
in,
I thought. That's what I thought was I thought it was in the fall of 23 that they would be taking over. So we have a limited time. I just wanted you guys to have the information if you didn't know. That's all.
thank you. And also, if you have more input than that, get a hold of Russ and talk to him directly, and so that we don't miss anything. Thanks again, Steve. Okay, sorry.
Good morning. You guys have a copy of my report. No need to go over all the numbers, but I'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, Mitch, I did go on a tour of the water plant this last week with Mitch, and we talked about all the different issues and projected things that need to be done right away, maybe need a 5-10-year plan. We talked about a freshwater tank, a new freshwater tank that is actually working its way to the top of our priority list because of some other issues that's going on with some of the pumps and things that feed water from the canal system when we need it for irrigation and things. So that freshwater tank, as it becomes more important, you want to tell them a little bit about that tank?
Well, right now we have fire protection and irrigation from the effluent at the wastewater plant. If for some reason that system were to fail, we have a backup, which is the canal station over here. And that equipment is really in not so good shape. Well, we had spoke with David in the past about maybe instead of putting the money into that equipment on the canal station, just to put the money back at the plant, add a secondary tank for drinking water because our current tank needs some repairs. And then maybe we could add that tank that needs the repairs after it's repaired into the irrigation and fire protection system so that we have redundancy at the plant. And then we would be able to eliminate the canal station altogether.
That makes complete sense. Can you Band-Aid that generator long enough to get that tank replaced? Or, I mean, how bad is it out there, that pump?
We can Band-Aid it. I mean, it's kind of Band-Aided right now, and we can continue on with that. I don't know how long the engineering and permit modification process would be to go through to get the tank built, and then of course hire a company to build the tank. I'm gonna guess a year, you think, David?
Yes, that'd be a reasonable estimate.
So
Might be able to even beat
It'll
that.
take a whole year?
Well, we've got to go through permitting and so forth, plus procurement of the tank and so forth. Right now, we've got supply shortages everywhere. So a year would probably be the outside of that if we got started right away on that.
I wonder if there would
Do
be
we have it
any,
built or just have the permits and?
No, we would probably be able to get construction completed within the year.
within a year?
Wasn't that project already approved?
Conceptually, yeah, but we'll need to get a work authorization
Okay.
completed to go ahead and
Okay.
continue on. It was pretty much just conceptually talked about. What the tank would do, what we would do is initially utilize it for water use initially so that we can go ahead and implement the repairs we need to do to the existing water tank. And as that's completed, then we would use the tank, we would convert it over for use for the irrigation fire system. And then in the future, we would have the ability to, if we need to do repairs in the future on the water tank again, we could disinfect the tank and put it back into use for water use for a while, then flip it back over. So again, it's kind of a dual purpose tank for us.
Okay, so Mitch, at this time, we have to make sure that we're gonna do the road, and we talked about that, right? And we have a $20,000 projected cost on that.
that's what I believe,
Finish the
yes.
road, and that's a priority. We need to get that well road fixed. We have a $42,000 well field generator replacement because the hurricane and subsequent flooding took out the generator in the well field. So we have to replace that generator, and then we have a freshwater tank to work on.
Yes.
All right, anything else?
So the generator, I got two bids. One, the pricing was about the same. One was 40 to 44 week delivery. The other one was 2-week delivery, which is kind of unbelievable right now. But, and I gave those, there's a couple of them up there floating around with the information to the generator.
how about our two portable generators? Are they functional?
the one is scheduled for some repairs. They are functional, but one is scheduled to have some repairs done.
So if we did have an issue out at the wells right now, you just pull
If
up.
the power went out today, we would just drag one back there and hook it up. We would be okay.
Okay, Cal, financing for these, I don't know if we approved all this to spend the money.
I thought it was in the capital plan that David had a list of some things, and I thought that was included. But that's one of the things that you should do during the budget amendment, not today, but look at the capital improvements you want. What are the needs? Another great need is that replacement of that water line coming from the well fill to the water plant.
Right, we talked about that, and we figured that right now the water tank might take priority to that. Not that we're gonna move that too far out, but because we hate to spend $150,000 right now on the canal system, build a tank and then have it obsolete. So kind of to get the cart back behind the horses, we have to get that water tank built so we can do that and then work on the water lines. I think there's money saving to do it in that order.
And we're gonna be looking into mitigation money to possibly replace that well pipe.
Right.
Right.
If we could do that, we could save ourselves $1 million, $1.5 million.
If I can suggest something that you take a look at using some, getting a FEMA hazardous mitigation grant, at least applying for it to see if you can cover some of those costs for the generator, plus the well field, some of the well field road improvements, the well field piping, and maybe even doing some improvements with the wellheads themselves as far as elevating them to protect them from floodwaters and so forth. The process isn't instantaneously. It will take a little bit of time to go ahead and process the grant applications, receive the grants, and so forth if they deem worthy. But again, that may be an alternative funding source for you on those projects.
So that would be separate from the FEMA funds, or is that?
Correct. The FEMA is basically a reimbursement program, where the FEMA hazardous mitigation program would be to prevent future damages in the future.
Okay, would that?
Go ahead.
Would that be similar to the impact money? Because of restoration of Florida, the Everglades, there's some impact fees that may still be available. I don't know if they were available.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that program.
But that is, would be separate from, like it says, but that's a state initiated program.
Right.
And that's what they were gonna put the culverts in, and they were gonna do that themselves.
I don't know if we can apply to both and see if
Sure.
one of them pays.
Yeah. Potentially, you could use one source for partial matching of the funds and so forth.
Have we ever got that kind of money for this establishment?
Not that I'm aware of.
You know,
Have we ever
all of
applied
the
for it?
funds We've inquired, Ron looked into it, but basically we're told, no, because everything was based on the economics of the community. And the average income was, the household income in Port of the Islands is higher than their threshold. And so, it just wasn't pursued. But this program that David's communicated, and the restoration of the Everglades, those are programs that were initiated that, we can jump on, and it's not income generated of the community.
You're gonna look into that, right?
We'll do that. We'll take that on.
There are some other improvements that you could be making with, at least apply for the hazardous mitigation grants. Maybe look at doing some work on your wastewater system as far as the pumping systems, the pump stations themselves. We had identified a couple of pump stations that could use backup power or backup diesel pump or something like that. And again, that may be those might be projects that could qualify for that hazardous mitigation grant.
I think that we should look into all of that. Right now, though, you have the ability to go and pump those things with a portable, right?
Yeah.
So we're not at risk on any of this. So, but it's something we need to be looking at.
So at this time, Cal, do we have to make a motion with the board to authorize the spending for the road, the generator, and do anything
But
with
when
the
you
fresh water
actually
tank?
get to it, let us put together a proposal and put it on your next
agenda.
And then that would be a motion. But
Well,
one of the
the Wellfield Road we have to do now. We're not gonna wait till
Right.
next month.
Wellfield Road is a FEMA.
Right, so
Do you know if Soto has gotten down to cut it yet? He was going to, but do you know if he got it done?
No.
He's not finished. So
He
they
hasn't.
started cutting the overgrowth back, but they haven't bush hogged yet, and they still have a little bit of.
They have a brush hog to take down that.
I thought he was gonna do that right after the last meeting. Okay,
I'll follow up on it.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right,
But Dan, to follow up on that, one of the items it's carried over from the meeting on the 30th, is the budget amendment for 2023.
right.
Now that you've got this influx of cash from the sale of parcel 13, you need to include that in your budget, and it wasn't. And we're recommending that you create a construction fund, which would be R&M and any new capital improvements, and then we'll put those in, and then once you approve that, then that budget would include those items.
Okay, but at this time, I want to see us go ahead with the road and generators and stuff. The FEMA part of it.
Yeah, he can go ahead and proceed on that. Oh, the FEMA, absolutely, yeah.
I'm understanding that I'm good to go ahead and fix the road and order the generator for the well field.
You are.
Does that need a motion?
That's what I was wondering, if we need a motion.
Just for the heck of it, just make.
Yeah, and you could set it not to exceed. There's just not a proposal for you to actually act on.
And you're gonna,
But if he's got something, then we can go ahead and get the generators and give them a not to exceed number.
okay. All right, at this time, I'd make a motion that we go forward with the well road repair and the well field generator replacement, and not to exceed $75,000.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Right. Kevin, if you could get a hold of Robert Soto and explain to him that we're going to start repairing this road and that we need him to
Right.
get it cleared ASAP.
Do we have a different number for him? Because I called that number all day yesterday and it just rang and rang and rang and rang.
I got a cell phone.
Okay. I'll
Okay.
do that after that.
We'll get you that.
I've got it.
I've got it on my phone.
anything else, Mitch?
So I did provide you, it's up there, there was just a couple of copies, the secondary pricing for painting the pipes on the bridge and or replacing those. You'll see those, that's just something to think about for the future.
Roughly $100,000 instead of $150 to fix what we've got, or spend $200,000 to
Put in all new pipe.
put all new pipe in, and
It's like
it's
260.
non-corrosive, and I mean, it would be a permanent fix or
The
semi-permanent.
new pipe, if we go with the new pipe, it has a better liner in it.
So it's ductile iron, it's 401 lined epoxy. So David knows that's what they use for wastewater.
Okay.
So what are your,
I was going to ask Tony a question about spending limits and so forth and what we needed to do as far as competitively bidding.
Talk about maintenance. Well, what we're talking about, ask the question, don't check the statute.
yeah, we're not actually, we'll ask for bids, but what's your feeling on that pipe going across the bridge?
Well, it would need to be ductile iron or some material like that. You couldn't use a plastic pipe out there because of the exposure. And I couldn't tell you what the condition of the inside pipe is. The force main probably goes back, it was one of the first pipes that was probably put in. So it's probably in the late 80s, early 90s, then about the mid to late 90s to early 2000s was probably the fire irrigation line. So they're different ages and so forth. Ductile iron tends to have a pretty good life,
What does that mean?
Yeah, what's life expectancy? 40 years?
50 to 100 years.
Oh. So we're not just gonna, if
So
we painted it, we're not just putting lipstick on the pig.
Right, right.
Okay.
And now you never know what the inside of the pipe looks like unless you do some kind of sampling program, which is hard to do with the fact that we just got single pipelines everywhere. You could replace the pipes if you wanted to feel safe about it. One thing we probably need to do before we just arbitrarily replace the pipes is we probably need to get some information from FDOT to make sure we don't need to get any kind of permits or anything else associated with that.
Because we
And also
wouldn't
find
be
out what they're
replacing
saying.
like for like?
That's what, when I called, that it was like for like, that I was under the impression that we were okay to replace
Yeah,
it.
with
but
DEP, we're okay like the like.
That too, and I just spoke to a gentleman at FDOT, but
Okay.
I know it would have to be permanent.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if you're doing it from the top side, trying to do the replacement from the top side versus a barge, because you'd have to have maintenance of traffic and so forth going on during that entire process.
And hope, maybe we can find some assistance money for that sort of thing too. We'll look into it.
Okay, priority wise on the pipes,
To me, that's low priority compared to some of the other stuff.
okay,
I mean, worst case, we have a leak and then we just fix it. A water irrigation leak wouldn't be as bad as if it were sewage. That would be bad in the waterway. But again, in my opinion, it's not as important as some of the other stuff.
Okay.
all right, good.
Anything else?
Yes.
Go for it.
My contract is up. If you guys decide to continue, we'll maintain the same price for another 3 years.
The same price? I thought we would get like a 10% discount.
No, sir, but we're not raising it.
Okay, can you send that over to me?
Absolutely.
All right, and we'll deal with that at the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay. Does anybody in here got any questions for Mitch before he leaves?
I can just ask a question. What's the annual price at the present time, Mitch, for your services?
I don't have that.
I think it's like 356.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank
coming.
you. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mitch.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yep.
Next on the list is approval of the agenda, which we already did. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're down to approval of the minute or audience comments, right? Audience comments on agenda items.
None on agenda items. There's one on non-agenda items. That's Ms. Oswald.
Okay, just hang on just 1 second. Mitch, so we can get you out of here. I know you have work to do. Down in 14A, we have new business. You have utility plant tours.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if the community would like an open house. We used to have the open house out at the sewer and water plant, and Mitch put on a little show out there and would.
I would be glad to do that again in February. That's normally when we did it in the past.
Okay.
If you would like, or if someone would like a private tour, I'm glad to schedule that as well. It doesn't matter.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll figure that out.
Maybe figure it out.
If there's
And at the
enough-
next meeting, we can decide. And if it's the February open house, that'd be great.
Okay.
I actually like that. I mean, that's kind of fun to get to meet everyone and we have lunch and just let everyone walk around and look and explain to them how it all works.
Perfect.
Super.
Tony, got something?
Yeah, just for clarification, Mitch and Cal and David, the work that you perform is maintenance, but also operations?
Yeah, so it is operations and then maintenance. If it's an emergency in our contract, we can fix it with a certain percentage markup and we're billed all of our labor at an hourly rate. And then if it's something big, non-emergency, or even small, I bring it to the board, they approve it.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking is the statute says that for maintenance services that exceed 195, you need to competitively solicit. But it sounds like it's more operations and not just maintenance.
Yes, it's operations. And my understanding the first contract, it was 3 years with the option to renew, 3 years with the option to renew.
Okay, so we have an option to renew.
You
That's
do.
what the exercise is.
Yes.
And again, I think it falls outside of the maintenance because of the scope of it is
Yes.
operations. Okay, I'm fine.
Good.
If the board's so inclined not to have to engage in competitive solicitation.
You don't have to stay any longer if you don't want. Appreciate your time and Merry Christmas.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, did you give us- I'll give you a holler later.
Yes.
I know you're busy.
So again, what was it? Anyone you say had?
Yes,
Cat.
Ms. Oswald.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
I'm sorry, I'm a little slow.
That's all right.
Catherine Oswald, Sunset K Lakes. There's two things that I didn't see on the agenda, so I'm assuming they're non-agenda items. I contacted Mr. McNamee almost 2 weeks ago about a water meter cover that is missing from the south end of my building. I never received an answer. Somebody steps in there, they're gonna break a leg. I almost did because I went at dusk to do my to put a lock on my hose bib, and I almost stepped in it, and that's how I
Are you
noticed.
talking one of the backflow preventer?
No, the water meter, where they read the water meters,
Yeah.
the cover,
That's the cover.
that cover is missing, and it's almost 1.5 feet deep.
I have to apologize. I don't remember.
I've got a copy of the email. So I was just
You said,
wondering who I need to contact.
I did not see your email.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I didn't see it.
it's
We'll-
the south
we'll
end of my
have
building.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
yeah.
Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
What's the address?
302 Newport Drive. It's at the south end of the building. And then I noticed this morning that there's another one that's starting to crack. So if Mitch could just check all of them. I just don't want anybody to get hurt, you know?
Okay.
Because a lot of people walk their dogs back there and, you know. The other item is the median. I didn't see it on the agenda. I feel very strongly that we need to keep that up. I don't care how we keep it up. My friend had stage 4 breast cancer, and she was at she was at the Board of Commissioners for 3 months straight while doing chemo to get that thing, because it used to be just dirt and garbage. 20 years ago, the runoff was terrible. Your tires would spin when you go to pull out of Newport Drive. Your tires would spin on the sand to try to get traction. That's why she fought for the median. There's been talk that people said that they would be willing to take care of it on their own, the residents. I don't see people going out there in 97-degree heat in the middle of the summer taking care of it, but if that's what they want to do, that's all.
Standing on the
well and good
highway
to
with
me,
people
you know,
walking by.
but,
We're gonna have more discussion with that, and I think
Okay.
that's gonna end up with Kevin here in his landscaping. It costs us a lot of money to have that, and
I
discussion
know it
about
costs a lot,
maintaining it.
but, and that, again, who takes care of it? Is it Soto's that does it?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I don't know why Soto's is doing it when it's county property, that the county
Because
should
we're
have
under,
their landscapers
we're under a
coming out and doing it. We're
landscape-
paying for it.
we're under a landscape agreement.
When,
Well,
when
I
they
talked
put
to
that,
Kevin.
when they put that in, we had to make an agreement with them, if I'm not mistaken, that we were gonna maintain
Oh,
it.
okay, okay.
So, and that's the problem. Sometimes when somebody gives you a gift,
Mhm.
while appreciated, can end up costing you a lot of money in the long run. But here again, as a board, we are not for or against this.
No, I
We're
know, that's
looking
why I
into
wanted
it.
to state how it's so very important.
We appreciate that.
Kevin will
This
be
was the
working on
median that's down the.
41.
Yeah,
No,
maybe
41.
down 41.
I was at the county last week and I asked them
both sides of
about
the
that, and they were gonna give me somebody to talk to at the county to see, if there's some kind of agreement, or if they could take it over, or maybe a cost sharing thing, so.
Yeah,
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 it's,
so
like
we're gonna
I
look
say,
at it.
I don't care who maintains it, I just feel it needs to be maintained because just the 3 months that she was at the Board of Commissioners, it took almost 3 years to get it done.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And
Just
she,
saying, I've
Thank
already
you,
asked,
Kathy.
I've asked about it and I'm gonna.
Yeah, what might be helpful
Thank
is, Cal, if you can give Mr. Baird in charge of that. If Mr. Baird doesn't have a copy of that agreement, provided to him. And that's the agreement between, I think, DOT, the county.
I'd love to
and
see that as well.
Yeah, I think maybe just put in the next meeting book.
Sure.
It does, and I think the discussion by the board also was that if this district no longer wanted to maintain it, that the district would be
Okay.
responsible for
So
removing.
what email did you use?
I used this one up here, the one that's on the CID site.
Oh, no wonder, I've never looked at it. No, I got.
Why you didn't get it?
Actually, I've got an email website that I set up specifically, and it's POIFlorida.com.
But it-
I will check it in the future. I'm sorry, I missed that. That's why, yeah. Okay. And in the
As long as nobody
future,
breaks their neck, I don't care.
and if,
Well, we should check them.
you
out.
what?
I said, as long as nobody breaks their neck going into the hole, as long as it gets fixed.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Good to hear. And is there anybody online or anything that has it?
Is there anyone online that would like to make a comment? I don't think so.
Okay, then we've got landscape maintenance.
Robert's not.
I guess what we've got is probably that's just in our book here. Did you get a hold, oh, you haven't got a hold of them,
No.
but in the future, you're gonna do the ride-arounds like Michelle used to and whatnot? Okay, perfect. Engineer report.
Just so you know, as we spoke before, anyone that has a landscaping issue, this is your guy.
Mr. Chairman, may want to go to, the meeting minutes. I don't know if the,
Meeting
it
minutes.
was 6A.
I'm sorry, I missed that, didn't I?
No
Okay,
problem, I missed them all the time.
all right. Anybody have any corrections for the minutes?
I do.
I do as well.
Yeah, we may have the same ones. Underneath line item 73, 70, 75, 77, there's a reference to an engineer marshal. That probably should be spelled.
Is that at a different place? Mr. Marshall? Okay.
And then underneath 73 also, I believe my report also indicated the possibility of not only fixed generators, but also the possibility of using an engine-driven pump at those locations.
And I've got one back at, let's see, 51. Chairman McNamee suggested that Mitch not attend every meeting. It wasn't stated that I suggested that he not attend. I suggested that he should attend when he wants to, or unless we ask him to come in. I didn't want to, I didn't discourage him from coming to the meetings.
That Chair McNamee suggested that Mitch didn't have to attend.
I spoke to Mitch on it. I asked him if he wanted to come to the meetings. We didn't need him to read the report since it's published online and in all the books. So what we settled on was Mitch, he likes to come and hear what's going on, hear what the comments are. So he said he would still come. He wouldn't read his report, but he would just do any questions on what's up, and then he'd leave.
But the minutes reflect what happened at that.
Yes,
meeting,
it
and
did.
If Mr. McNamee doesn't feel this reflects.
I just don't think
tell
that
me
I,
how you would like it.
yeah, I just didn't want it to say Mitch, that I suggested Mitch not attend every meeting. What I wanted it to say is Mitch suggests that Mitch attend only if needed
As requested.
or as requested. That's fine as well.
Mitch doesn't really have an hourly rate when he comes here. He's contracted for the year.
Right.
And he likes to make himself available for the meeting. But he'll be real short and gone if he doesn't have to read his whole report. So
Now, the next one's line 64. The project at 125 Newport Drive will proceed as expected. I don't know what that means. Expected to do what?
That I believe was the easement, right?
I'm sorry, it's
125.
No, that's the house that's under construction there. Right. And they're continuing construction on that. I wasn't at the last board meeting, so I can't tell you necessarily what was all talked about there.
Well, I was just reading it. It said it will proceed as expected, which I guess I'm not quite sure what was expected.
Yeah, what are the issues, I guess, David? I think that's what determines driving it. What are the issues with 125?
Well, the issues out there are, of course, the driveway connections to the roadways, plus maintaining the adequate drainage. I did have the opportunity to meet with the property owners there and express the concerns of the district and review that, and they seem to be in agreement with doing the proper connections and also maintaining the drainage.
Okay.
We could
I don't know how you want to
strike
fix
that
it.
whole line.
Okay,
It's not
that'll
relevant
work.
to
That'll work.
the Meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Or the project was discussed.
Oh, yeah, that works too. Is that okay?
Correct.
Just say the project at 125 Newport Drive was discussed.
Perfect. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Chairman, I have one suggestion, line 113. It says Attorney Urbancic. That's Greg. I guess he and I, we're both about the same height, I guess. Maybe we sound the same. That's line 113.
Okay.
Greg's Francesca's part.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's another attorney to work with, so.
Anything else anybody has? Okay, then make a motion to accept the agenda as corrected, or the minutes as corrected.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Engineers report, we already did, right? Did you finish?
No, I haven't even started.
Well, then go for it.
And the first item was the swales and the case and so forth, and there is a little email correspondence in your packet regarding that. We basically put that on hold, waiting for further board direction, which way you all want to proceed with the case and doing the drainage work in there. We did develop the plans to about 75% on the phase one improvements, which was going to be addressing the end of the cul-de-sac drainage to the back swales, along with the mid-block drainage to the back swales. Just wanted to make sure we were still on track with what the current board wants to do as far as that goes. What we would do is clean out those easements, clean them up vegetation, regrade them so they will flow back there the way they were supposed to. We were going to look at a bid alternate to go ahead and pipe those also, similar to what was somewhat done at 162, 163 Sunset K. And that would be a bid alternate. You could pick or choose if you wanted to do that or not at the time. So again, we're kind of looking for some board input as far as if that's what you want to do at this point. The future phases would be to take a look at the back swales, the berms and so forth back there, and start looking at what remedial work needs to be done back there as far as cleaning them out and getting them reestablished to the original grades and configurations.
Who's paying for the grade work and reestablishing the grade for the easements between the buildings going to the back?
The way it was left, it would be a district expense.
Now, I went to Dave's office yesterday and met with him, and we discussed some of this stuff. The covenants that we've got in Sanctuary Point say that the swales, the stormwater drainage basically is the responsibility of the homeowner, and that it cannot be, and we are not allowed to ask a government agency to take over those responsibilities. That's in our covenant for Sanctuary Point. So I don't know exactly where that leaves us. All this stuff is, I've been looking back in the records, and 14 years ago, we started on this. I looked up the minutes of the meeting when the last chairman was sworn into office, and I looked at the minutes of the meeting from that day, what they were working on, which was just over 4 years ago, and it was this exact same issue. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, man, we've spent a lot of money and time on engineering and people's time, and I don't see where we have made any progress in those 4 years. And I don't know how we move off of this. I know you're swamped with Sanibel Island right now and so forth.
And I'm not going to use that as an excuse.
That's fine.
But if the board wants
It
to
is what it
proceed,
is.
then we will do it and get it done for you. We just need to get your direction.
I'd like to better understand exactly what we're proceeding with. So,
Well, the general maintenance of the swales that bring the water from the front to the back,
right,
right? Those state that they're maintained, which would be mowing the grass, keeping the stuff out of it by the owners. And if it's silted in, that would be also the owner's responsibility to see that the water runs from the front to the back.
right.
Right? As a committee, we could take, I hate to put it off, but we're all new to this and we have to get a handle on all this. And it is a big issue to stormwater management.
Yeah, I'd like to have a little more information and be a little more familiar with it before I start making a decision on
And
something.
it's not only bad on Stella Maris, Sanctuary Point, which at this particular point in time, it isn't a monster issue, but Newport over there, especially Newport Drive, the stuff in the ditches there are at least a foot higher than the culverts. And when they're flushing the ends of the streets, it just continuing to keep the ponds full and create mosquitoes, and these guys can't mow their lawns and whatnot. And I'm almost thinking that's of as much of importance, if not more, than dealing with Sanctuary Point right now. At least in Sanctuary Point, we're not having the standing water and whatnot. We'll have some blowouts, but we're a few months away from that, hopefully again. But like I said, over on Stella Maris North or Newport Drive over there, their front drainage is in really tough shape, and I'd like to figure out how we can address that ASAP.
You want to refer
Look at
this?
look at the issues we have, prioritize them and start there.
Okay, so at this.
But how do we do that when we
Make a motion, we refer all the stormwater management to committee for further research.
And again, the question is, when the committee is established to do research, then they come back with recommendations, then they're all subject to the sunshine law. They're not,
Right.
they're beyond the fact findings.
They can just tell us how it is.
Just what.
That's right, and that's why I would suggest that I have resolutions that I can bring back to the board to establish the particular committees and the scope.
Yes.
Right.
And I can work with the chair on those, and the language for those, so it's clear to this board and to the members of the committee what their roles are.
So we don't get in trouble.
So they don't stray off the path to the beyond fact finding to ranking, recommendatory, or advisory. That's where it crosses the line.
What would you like our motion to be then?
I guess, just globally, it'd be authorize the council to work with the chairman to bring back resolution establishing various fact-finding committees.
Got that, Cal?
Yes.
If that's what the inclination of the board.
I make that motion.
I second.
All
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
All right, so that takes us back to now, refer it to committee for research until we can get a list of everything that has to be done.
Yes.
Would it be helpful for me to prepare a presentation for our next board meeting, maybe explaining how the drainage works in some of the different communities and what communities and for the islands are responsible solely for their own water management systems?
Is that something that Cal would have information on now?
I would think.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Say it again, so.
Well, I suggested that perhaps for the next board meeting, there, we have a presentation on the stormwater systems within Port of the Islands, the various subsystems and so forth, and explain, best of our knowledge, who's responsible for the maintenance, operation and maintenance of those, and how they work and so forth, just so the board comes up to an understanding of that, since it is basically a brand new board.
Do we have that? Do we have that on records?
You have the plans, you
Right.
have the as-built, but I don't think it answers the questions that's what an engineer does. An engineer tells you how it's supposed to work and where, whatever, how big the pipes. I mean, we have the as-built.
Well, the first thing that we need to do is find out what the CID is responsible for and what the HOAs or private individual is responsible for. Because if it's not our responsibility, we shouldn't be spending time on telling the HOA what they need to do.
I think since we're specializing with committees to gather all this information and bring it to the board, at the committee level, they could gather all that information.
I think the committee should gather that information and not waste board time to research something.
I would suggest that let's do what we can do before we spend any more money on engineering to do that.
Refer it to the committee.
Correct. Because we're just going to keep doing the same thing that we've been doing. We're just going to be
We'll have to get their authorization.
talking about it and spending money and not getting anywhere. We've been doing that too many years. We need to stop that.
If I'm a committee member, I would want to know what my charge is. What are you asking me to do? Collect information on the system or to prioritize? I mean,
We have to collect information on the system. We have to, at least before we can prioritize, we need to get a full list of all the areas that we're having issues.
okay.
Yeah, I think, Cal,
So-
that's why I suggested that we bring back resolutions. I work with the chair on that. that would outline the scope of the research, fact-finding, data gathering of each
Right.
respective committee.
And that's what the
We can do that in
committee,
the resolution.
that's what we really need out of the committee is to establish all this information. Once it's there and we can look at it as a board, we're good.
But he wants to
Guess we'll figure it out then.
CYO us first with the committees. He wants to make sure that we are operating correctly with our committees before we
And
actually
that the committees
start
are
doing that.
doing what you all want them to do.
Yes.
And that they can see a written document, that they understand their charge.
I think as a board, you can start looking at these individual things. I mean, we don't have to stop what we're doing.
But in the meantime, you'll come up.
And working with the chairman on
And as
these
quickly as
scopes.
we can, we will get that taken care of. And then when we decide who might be on a committee, we'll have a session in here to train, to make sure that just like the training that we've gotten, like I said before, Cal's got a webinar on his website from Premier for new supervisors. That's about 3.5 hours long. And I went to another one Wednesday, which is almost identical. And
I probably created it. Was it?
yeah, same guys.
Yeah. I created it.
Okay, yeah, same lawyer there and whatnot, but there's no use driving to Fort Myers when it's on his website. And I would encourage anybody in here, if you want to know how this is all supposed to be done and make sure that we're doing things the way they're supposed to be done, spend your time on looking at that webinar. Okay?
Is there a comment back? Frank, did you? Okay. All right.
Anything else, Dave?
That's it as far as the swales. I did present, in your board packet, there is a couple of work authorizations. One is for continuing monthly services on call basically and for attendance at the meetings. And it's not only attendance at the meeting, but to handle, an hour here, an hour there, as Cal calls or there's a board request. So that we've got budgeted time and material, $2,200 a month, I believe, is what we've got set up there.
I have one question. Like, looking at the invoices and stuff. Sometimes we need a top-notch engineer to look at something, and sometimes we don't. Who makes that decision? Like, if somebody's gonna come out and look at swales, we don't need you.
Right.
It's
And
a
a lot
waste
of
of your
times,
time, it's a waste of our money. so-
right. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll dispatch field inspector out to come out and he did a lot of our field inspector was out here quite a few times during the Stella Marsa project where we were repaving the roads. Now, if I'm coming out here to a board meeting, typically I'll if there's something that needs to be done, I'll do the work myself because of the drive time and so forth associated with it. What you'll notice also on my billing is I do a blended rate of senior project manager and also senior engineer. So that reflects a little bit as far as what skill levels are required there. Sometimes, I hate to say this, sometimes it takes more time to bring a third party into it than just do it yourself.
Bring up the speed.
So it winds up costing more in the long run. And the second work authorization has to do with parcel 13, the review of the utility relocation plans for parcel 13. They made a submittal several weeks ago on that, and with the change of the board and the direction the board seems to be moving, it was felt that we needed to get a work authorization to do that work. We're providing a budget of $1,500 for that.
Now, will that be backfilled to that
I wanted to bring that
person?
up.
That's the prerogative of the board.
So that's the next question. And I don't know what kind of agreement that you guys have got with Mr. Case, so you'll have to help us with this. They're going through rezoning and working with the county and whatnot. Dave told me that basically they do their engineering, but then they send it to him to verify it, and they work together both ways. And I just want to make sure that that money for those invoices that he's generating that are for the parcel 13's benefit, as well as the attorney, get billed to Mr. Case rather than us pay for it.
Yeah, my understanding, there's two components from the engineering side, as I look at it. One is the internal utility system and how it's going to connect up to the district utility system. we have a schedule of fees, rates and charges for that work. I mean, we had this conversation, I think Dave Cal and I did. As far as the utility relocation project where, I'll call it the east side where the pipes and lines currently go to the plant, and they're gonna be relocated to Union Road to take them out of the backyard. I didn't have a chance to double check the post-closing agreement that we have on that. So those are two different sort of utility components. As far as looking at the documents to ensure that they meet the criteria and the covenants and in the contract, I'm not aware of any provision that provides for the district to charge Mr. Case for that review work by your district staff.
Is the infrastructure work, right? Because that's infrastructure for the new subdivision. In the contract, is that his responsibility or ours?
Oh, he's doing the infrastructure work internally, like the roads, the water, the sewer, the stormwater.
Lindsay.
Isn't
Correct,
this,
the owner of that property, or Lindsay or his assigns, wherever, because he may have another entity.
and this isn't part of that, water lines?
This water, I'm not sure which water line we're talking about, David. Are we talking about the one that's currently on the back side of those lots on the eastern side that need to be relocated to Union Road?
This is just a relocation to Union Road. They have not submitted any plans as far as the subdivision development itself at this point.
So this is, I'll call it, it's going from the back side of the lots on the eastern side to Union Road. And so I would need to relook at it. I haven't had a chance to look at the agreement that was entered into between the district and Lindsay Case for that utility relocation. And I'll double check that and get back with the chairman on that part. Yeah. But on the rezoning, from the standpoint of monitoring the rezoning submittals and looking at to make sure that what they're submitting is consistent with what the covenants provide, the contracts provide. My recollection, there's no provision for the district to charge for David's, Cal's, or my time to Mr. Case for that.
His work authorization is primarily to protect your interest in what's being done. It has nothing to do with what Mr. Case is building on his property.
Okay.
Then those reports go to us first and not Mr. Case, is that correct?
They can. We can report back to you first, and then you forward the reports on to Mr. Case. It's just a timing issue.
Well, and we don't want to slow him down in any way because every day he isn't built, we aren't getting assessments. So the faster he builds over there, the better we are.
Right.
Typically, it's a pure engineering type review. It isn't, if it would be something of a policy, then it would need to come before the board. But it's your prerogative, again, if you want to review fully everything before it's submitted to them.
We'll send it out.
What
Same
about,
time. Send it to us and him at the same time.
and I saw in the plans where we were looking at running, it looked like a wastewater line over to by the gun club.
Different things. The utility relocation that we're talking about, it would be relocating the existing, I gotta keep it straight here, fire irrigation and wastewater force main from the east side of the property over to Union Road. The water main itself is over on Union Road itself, but it's gonna need to be relocated also to a different location just to make everything work in their proposed overall plan. Now, it's conceptually, as far as the subdivision plans, we've asked them to include potential connection points for the gun club for wastewater, and then also potential connection points for the old hotel site, if and when it ever gets developed, that they could then flow into the, have connections to the existing Port of the Island system without extensive extensions. And then on the wastewater side, hopefully eliminate the need for any kind of new wastewater pump stations. So we're just trying to look ahead into the future for you.
See, my issue is, and I don't know what your agreements were. So, you know, I'm looking at what it's going to cost us to run additional piping and so forth over there to not only provide for Mr. Case, but also provide for the gun club. And I would hope if we're running pipes out there for that gun club, I mean, they're basically paying like $3,800 a year in assessments out there. I'm hoping that we're not going to be running a whole, you know, we're not going to be spending a whole bunch of money to spend on that.
Right. Currently, you do have water and fire irrigation stubbed up almost to their property, and they do make connections to the water system at that point. So on the water and fire irrigation side, what we would be looking at the gun club is to complete that loop between what Mr. Casey's got planned and where the existing lines are right now to, again, provide additional reliability of your overall system and provide looping.
That would be on their nickel, right?
Well, there'd be a cost sharing. I think we agreed to do some cost sharing with them because it had a benefit to both the
So that's a
district and
benefit
to
to
them.
us, yes.
So we would look at doing some cost sharing with them.
How is that benefiting the district?
It just improves reliability of the overall system, that instead of feeding through 1.2, having a
You have
dead
no
end
dead
system,
ends.
now you got a looping system.
Well, I
So it helps
understand
with
that,
water
but
quality for both entities.
But right now, it's only to run that fire hydrant and water down to the gun club.
Right. And I guess, I want to be careful how I say this, but as a district, perhaps you do have some obligations to make sure that you do provide adequate service to all the parcels.
Okay, now then maybe we just need to look at a different assessment method.
That's what it comes
Yeah,
down
and
to.
what I'm suggesting is that we will send the board a post-closing agreement that has David's memorandum attached that the board approved as to allocation of costs from utility line relocation.
All right.
And that's all. I made a note to do that.
Perfect.
And again, the incremental cost is not going to be that great. So. And in the case of the old hotel site, if we don't do some extensions and make some provisions for them to come in, then you might inherit the operation and maintenance costs of another wastewater pump station in the future, which again, over time has greater costs than what that small incremental cost would be to do an extension.
Do the hookup.
Now, another thing that we spoke of yesterday was that land down on the end of Wilderness K there that hasn't been paying any assessments. And we talked about if they build in there, which sounds like they're planning on building in there, that they're going to have to build their house higher than the street, just like the new house next door to it. Therefore, they would be able to gravity flow. And from if I'm understood you correctly yesterday, there is already connections there, correct?
According to the record drawings, there are connections that have been provided down there as far as water and wastewater.
Yeah. So the utilities are already there, and why we haven't been assessing for it, I don't understand.
We're getting off track, but we're getting into
Okay,
assessing.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's, I think that's a question, in other words, you want the manager and engineer check on allocating utility ERCs.
I don't know. Can we change that mid-year though? That has to be in the
No,
new
but
budget, right?
I'm not saying do it now, I'm saying look into it.
Yeah, but we don't have the ability to add them right now, do we? Okay.
I'm saying that's
Are
something.
we talking about the gun club?
No, on the end of Wilderness K. Those 3 lots back in
They're
there.
unbuildable.
No, that's not true.
No, that's what
It's not
the
true.
Ron presented. And,
Previous board approved also.
yeah, previous board approved. I mean, Ron just said, we can't, they would have to put it, they could build, but they'd have to put some type of a gravity pump to push it up
Why?
because it sits too low from what
We're
I.
not gonna be able to build the house down in the hole, right? The house is gonna be up here above the floodplain, right? Why wouldn't you?
They'd have to
Yeah,
fill.
that wasn't my decision. I just
Gotcha.
telling you that the board had determined that, so they took the ERCs off of it.
Yeah, but times have changed. He's marketing those as well as planning to build on them.
And that gets back to fact finding by a committee, what are the facts involved in that property?
Gotcha.
That then get back to the board at a later point in time.
Things have changed too, is that what was deemed maybe perhaps unbuildable numerous years ago because the economic cost now has changed because of the price of land.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
We will be revisiting assessments at some point.
You could.
So we need to give him an idea of authorizing work orders.
Well, there's a couple different ones here that he's gone through. This one's not to exceed $2,200 a month. The next one's not to exceed $2,200 a month. The next one's
So,
not to
let's do
exceed
them one at a time.
$1,500, right?
There's 2 of them,
my
one for
point is-
22 and one for 1,500.
Yeah, my point, I guess, is where are we at with the budget for that? What's our budget number we're trying to hit?
Zero.
Is this is for 2023?
Yeah, which is next month.
Yes, but.
No, it's.
No, it's fiscal year 2023.
2023 right now.
Fiscal,
Okay,
yeah,
you're
fiscal year
right.
starts
It's October.
October 1. It's 10/1 to
That's
9/30.
right, we're in that now.
I know, I always have to change my brain on.
So David, my point, I guess, is that because we were in the red ink for last year on our costs, not counting the sale, but what our budget has out for the year, when we see things now, we're gonna watch the budget. When we see things that are running high in the beginning of the year, like we brought up the mosquito spraying, we're spraying more mosquitoes, the budget's up quite a bit higher than what we budgeted for. Engineering has a budget number, right? So we're trying to do what we can to hit those budget numbers so that we're in the black ink at the end of the year. And this very much ties into that as to how much can go on.
And right now, that $2,200, if he just came to meetings and did nothing else, that's the budget.
That's the budget. So the question is, do you come to every meeting? Do we cut this back somehow? That's what we gotta look at. Because it's 2,200 there, it just adds up. That's the problem, is throughout the year, these things add up.
And there'll be additional work authorizations that will be presented to
Right.
you for different items too. And I can't answer the question as far as how you want to prioritize things.
I don't know what to do.
Budget, no, you're in charge of budget.
That's you, you're finance.
Any change?
Next
No.
month, when you look at the budget amendment,
Yes?
you can increase attorney and any other costs, or I'm sorry, engineering.
So,
And some of your engineering costs, if you wanted to do so, you could apply that to your capital improvement program as far as making improvements, doing your water tank for one case, doing generator replacements. those type of
recoding your
things.
invoices.
Basically recoding it to your construction fund and so forth, that it would not, quote, come out of the engineering.
Yeah.
And that may be even
Put it in
more
a different,
appropriate anyway.
put it in a different spot.
Do we need them at every meeting?
Is it appropriate for you to be here at every meeting?
You have.
That's what I'm asking.
That's your choice. That's your choice. Just that it may slow down the process if something does come up that you do need engineering input. It may mean you have to delay a month.
It's just a lot of money. And that's what we're trying to fix. It's just a lot of money. Not that we don't think that you're worth it, we just,
Refer it to committee.
Kathy, did you have something quick?
Yes, sir. This was like 3 subjects ago, but did I hear correctly when you said we discussed yesterday?
Dave and I.
Okay. It wasn't.
Dave Schmidt, for the
Okay.
record.
Dave Schmidt.
Was it the
Yeah, make sure it's Dave Schmidt for the record.
Yeah.
Just wanted to, right, thank you.
You're gonna keep me under control, aren't you?
No, well, I've lived here for 20 years and I'm still trying to get a handle on different things.
Gotcha.
And when I ask on next door, everybody downgrades me. for asking
Kathy,
questions.
your questions are
So I'm
always
just-
welcome. Always welcome.
I know some of them are stupid.
Nah, don't go there.
No stupid questions.
Okay.
So
You
why
wanna
don't we
refer it?
decide the board, the month before, whether we need, or we can pass it up to committee when we need Dave here, when we don't.
You have to bring the information back to the board.
Exactly.
So
like he says, it's gonna probably be a month behind. Unless
Do
a
we
board
have
member can-
anything that would be very negative if we are a month behind? Is there anything that's, I mean, are we gonna slow down Mr. Case? Or, I mean, are we gonna slow down anything that,
You could.
Could you contact a board member and let us know that
Well, if you,
before the meeting?
I can't anticipate your desires or wishes. I sometimes can get a feel from these board meetings what they may be, but if I don't know what to do, then I can't respond.
right?
I'm driving blind.
can he talk to a board member before a meeting and make that
Separately.
decision? Separately, yes.
Right,
But again, there is a cost incurred there because the only means I've got is
No,
time
no,
and
no, no,
material.
what I'm saying is I could make a phone call to you and say, Dave, we're gonna need you at the meeting.
And I'd ask you, what is the subject matter so I can be properly
Right.
prepared?
Exactly.
And then I'd have to get properly prepared.
Well, we
But
can
if I
tell
don't
you
have
the
a
night
bunch to
before.
do that with, then I can't get properly
Well,
prepared.
and the difficulty with that is if he gets 5 different phone calls from 5 different board members, and one may say, we don't need you, the other one, and so he ends up with that.
We'd have to go through the
Well,
chair.
the other
So-
thing is,
Well, and then you couldn't go really to the chair, because then you have sunshine law issues.
Now that we say that, you once in a while have residents call you, correct, directly?
And I would suggest that we dip that in the bud and have some kind of means that on your website, that if they do have any inquiries of the district, the engineer, the attorney, or whatever, that they do send a request into the website, and then somebody on the board filter through if it's deemed
I
somebody
agree.
to respond to it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because I
That's
don't
the
need
way
to
it
be
is right
responding.
I had this issue arise many years ago with one of my other districts, where I was constantly getting emails, letters, phone calls from residents. And so I went to the board and I said, I don't want to be spending your money. I don't want to constantly respond. How do we handle it? And I got some guidance and direction and similar to that. So if somebody calls your office, asks for you, Dave, and says that, they're a resident, I would just have the receptionist take the message and then forward that to the chair.
Otherwise, there's been an
I suggest, and if they get an email, you forward that to the chair and the Cal and say, please give me direction.
I agree.
And then David's response could be, if you have any communication, you give a stock response. Any request for this, please do not contact me, contact the manager or the
You as
chair.
well.
Yeah, same thing. Unfortunately, I don't get any.
Huh? You don't?
No, in most of my districts, I don't, because I think the residents are aware of the fact that the contact points are the manager and the chair or the board members.
Okay.
But yeah,
I think
that can be problematic otherwise.
at the last meeting, didn't we make a motion that we wouldn't spend money for any contractors or consultants unless it was board approved? I didn't see that in the minutes, by the way. They would be approved
I'm not
prior.
sure I checked my notes, but.
Yeah. This way,
So
our consultants are not
The
bothered.
only,
And
I didn't hear all of last week because the communication was not that good at times. But attorneys are governed by the rules of the Florida bar. And the rules of the Florida bar says I shall zealously represent and advocate the positions of my client within the bounds of the law. And I take that if an issue arises that has an adverse impact on the district, which is my board, and on my client, and the board of supervisors, that I can act to protect the interests of my client. I communicate with the chair always, but it would not necessarily require board approval or manager approval. Because that's the canon of ethics, the code of ethics I operate under, that's different than engineers or any other professional. So just sort of that caveat. And I take that position very seriously. If something arises, I think adversely affects the interests of the district, I will, before I act, contact the chair or contact the manager, say, I need to respond. We need to respond. So I just want to let you know on that.
But we would know.
Since each one of the board members is going to be in charge of a different area, and that covers pretty much all the questions that should come in, right, between the roles and what have you. If that was directed on a website, since we're establishing a committee under that board member, but the board member could be the contact on the website for any questions coming in, because we don't get paid, we don't charge anything back. So if you would run your questions through that board member for that subject, which we're going to publish anyway, so they'd know that, right? They could contact that board member, and that board member then through a meeting or talking with the engineer or the attorney could forward it if something that needed to be addressed immediately. And we'd be clear of everything, right? So all those questions could go through each board member, depending whether it's landscaping or
Absolutely.
or whatever.
And it may bog down in the beginning until we smooth out. I
So-
think that will work.
So what do we want to
Take it
do?
away from you, that would take it away from Dave.
Oh, no, again, from the standpoint of resident contacts, I don't get contacted by residents.
But I
So
know
I'm not-
Dave.
But I do think that's a good approach to have the communication with the
Through the
manager,
board.
the chair, or the board. And again, I have sort of my stock responses. I don't respond.
A lot of times the resident concerns and so forth is what eats up my time.
And that's what we don't want to
We
keep
don't
paying
want that.
for, unless they come through us first and we, you know, because some of that stuff that you're answering for them, we may be able to answer. So,
That's fine. What do you think? Contact the board member in charge of that if you have questions or issues or
Yes.
that work?
now just so that you people know, it's 11 o'clock. I want to try to get this thing wrapped up and by noon, if we can. So let's move it along.
Okay.
You still got those work authorizations.
Yes, you're right. What do we want to do on that? Can we wait a month on it? Or not? I know you're not going to like it.
Well, it's going to delay Mr. Case on the one work authorization. The other work authorization, I won't do anything for you until you approve
Let's
the
see.
authorization next month.
Let's
So-
authorize the stuff that has to do with Lindsay Case, get him moving.
But if a resident calls
Oh,
and
yeah,
with
fine.
a
Thank
question
you.
one way or the other, just say no.
That's not right.
Just say no or say that's a question for this particular board member, whichever. But
And I won't be able to respond to you also,
I'm fine.
because I won't have any budget to respond to you.
We'll have to ask them to go through the,
Just
through the website.
Just so you know that if the chairman calls me and says you need to address this and this, I'll have to say, wait till next month.
Gotcha.
And then you'll have to tell me whether I need some kind of authorization to come next month too. I'm sorry.
All right.
I mean, that might be 2 months. Because you gotta, but for him to come, he has to have a work authorization.
just
And if it's one board meeting, then he would come to the next board meeting.
And this is, the other districts that the other district I work with, we do have a monthly budget set aside to cover incidentals, call outs, board meetings when they do occur.
All right, but we're asking you to work with us on what we're trying to do too. Like when the call came in for the pipes or graffiti on the bridge, I mean.
I won't do anything unless you tell me to.
No, but what I'm saying is, I mean, that's something that should have been referred to a $40 an hour guy versus $200 an hour.
I think there wasn't getting any action and the board asked me to follow up.
I think you're right. I think the board did ask him to do it.
Yes.
Okay,
So.
It wasn't something I took upon myself.
No, it wasn't.
all right. Anyone okay for now?
Let's okay these two for now. We need a motion on that?
Yes.
Motion to accept Dave's two proposals.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
That takes care of that. Moving on to the agenda.
anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Perfect, thank you. District managers report?
Frank.
Oh, sorry, Frank. Come on up.
Thank you. I'm not sure, I missed the agenda, so this way, we'll mute you. My apologies.
Slow down.
Frank Lee, President Villages of Stella Maris. 3 meetings ago, I came to the then board and said we have an emergency. We have raw sewage backing up into people's units. We made the affirmation to you that our units should not be your overflow basin. The board unanimously agreed it was an emergency. Mitch confirmed it was an emergency. The board told Mitch to take action. I've heard nothing. Since then, it was scheduled on the engineer's report for the last meeting, but the engineer did not come. I did not hear anything today. So on advice of our council, I again, and in a friendly way, this is just business now.
Absolutely.
I'm putting you on formal notice again,
Yes.
that if you have not corrected this deficiency and these unit owners have sewage in their homes, we are holding this district financially responsible. Also, last point is, the board said that they would work with us on this issue so we could communicate with our members and we could have input. We've had no input, we've had no communication. Thank you very much.
No, hang on.
Hang on just a second. Cal, I believe that Mitch ordered those circuit boards are all
And that was
ordered.
reported at the last meeting. The software upgrades have been being installed. We could have asked Mitch today if they're completed.
I know,
But,
yeah.
We're moving on it, Frank.
That was part of the solution. The engineer, however, at the previous meeting, I don't know how to interpret your good words, sir, but he expressed an opinion that perhaps the other stations should not be shut down.
Yeah.
And both Mitch and I took umbrage to that. And that has nothing to do with what gizmos installed. It has to do with policy. And I don't know what your policy is to hesitate on shutting them down. There was actually a discussion, it's on it in the thing, about, well, we can just wait and see. Well, the only thing you can see is when it backs up in our units.
Actually not. With the new boards that come in there, the new circuitry that he's putting in there will give alarms. And I think it's even cellular based. I think it might call him.
And it's supposed to shut down.
And it's supposed to shut the others down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the board has given Mitch the authority to
Right.
run the system.
So we should have asked him what his progress
I don't
was.
understand what the engineer's doing in this.
I don't want to put words in Mitch's mouth, but I believe the system he's got ordered will do a call out to him to alert him of the high level in the wet well itself. At that point, then he would then instruct the other pump stations to shut down and not pump to those other stations. To further the redundancy and reliability of the system, there was a suggestion, and we mentioned it earlier, about adding some generators or some diesel-driven type pumps at those two pump stations that do receive flow from other pump stations, because the one on Case Drive is not the only one that does receive repump flows from other ports of the community. There is one over on Newport. So we were suggesting that there be some kind of redundant power source at both of those.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking Mitch if we had issues, if he can't take his portable to those sites rather than us paying and putting some big ugly generator next to the street.
And again, the portables work when you know that the power's out, but it doesn't turn on instantaneously in a storm event when you might be not able to dispatch somebody to the station itself to put the portable.
But most of those things, I don't think, cause a backup immediately. You know, it's not like the electricity shutting off, because there's still a capacity in that system. So there is a certain amount of time to get out there with those portables. And I would have Dan here, being he's working with Mitch, maybe he can show us how to do it ourselves. If there was a storm situation and he couldn't get here for some reason, one of us will hook onto that with our pickup, pull it over there, hook it up, get it done.
Also, if the other pumps shut down, it shouldn't be an issue, at least for a while.
Well,
Start backing
they'll back up
someone
too
else.
if it's any length of time.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
but
talked
not
about-
minutes.
You mentioned
motor-driven
motor-driven pumps before.
Right.
A while ago.
And actually, if those two pump stations were to be built today, there would be a requirement by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection that they would have to have auxiliary power sources or a pump to back up the system. Any pump stations that do receive flow from other stations do need to have that today. The risk you run when you shut down the other pumps that are in the system is, again, you're going to start surcharging, and then you're going to backflow into those people if it reaches its capacity, or you may have a wastewater overflow in the street. So that's
Here
the
again,
disadvantage of that.
I think that if we work with Mitch, so if he calls us at 2:00 in the morning and says, you know what, it's gonna be 2 hours before I can get out there, one of us can run over to the plant, get the generator, hook it up, and we'll do it.
We'll have to talk to Mitch. I know that he mentioned having on-site generators there. He wasn't real in favor of that because of the maintenance of them just sitting there all the time and not running unless the power's out.
Well, what you would do
You could
with
stage it there during a storm though.
what you would do with any generator, or even if you put like a diesel-driven pump there to be the backup,
Right.
you would, on a regular basis, once every other week, you would actually run them under load for a short period of time to make sure they are operational. Because if you don't run them, they will not work when you do need them.
I just really like the portables because you can take it where the problem is. And then it's not just for pumping out waste stations, it's electricity goes off someplace or whatnot. I mean, it's a multi-purpose thing, man.
And again, those generators at those two stations may be a good candidate for a hazardous mitigation grant.
Absolutely. We should be working on that.
Yeah, so again, that's something that, if you want to pursue that, you need to direct Cal and I to proceed on that.
If we had another, I talked to Mitch about this a few days ago. If we had another portable generator, big generator trailer, that could be positioned there. Right now, we have enough to cover the well field if we have an issue there. And then there's another one that could be used at one of the pump stations. But if we actually had 3 of those generator trailers, in a hurricane situation, you could position one of those trailers at each one of those pump stations that are going to get pumped into, right?
You could and hope that they do survive the wind.
The generators.
Yes, that they don't get picked up and thrown someplace.
Well, if they do, we got bigger problems than
You
sewer.
probably do, but that's the risk you run. Again, you got to be able to
So
evaluate the risk and accept it whatever degree you want.
We're just trying to figure out, where we'll get our best bang for the buck, you know what I mean? Putting those generators in, I'm sure they're 50, 60,000 apiece or more.
if we could pick up the generator trailers, we could put anchors by those lift stations where when you park a generator, you
Sure.
anchor it down.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things you could do. It's just, again,
I'm just,
the risk that you're willing to accept.
Sure.
I was just going about the maintenance part of it.
Anything else, Frank?
No, thank you very
Thank you.
much. And again, we hadn't heard anything.
We will,
I appreciate it.
we will keep you in the loop. What else? District managers report?
Okay, you've got the financials and you have a cash out. Now, this is the end of November. So the loan was paid off December 1, the day after your meeting. And, but you had a cash balance reflected in there of almost $5 million. And, after you pay after the loan was paid off, it'll, your next financial will show it down $1 million. This only reflects because the county extended the payment of the collection of the assessments. So you only see 251,000 in assessments, but you've already collected this month in December. Your total, you collected another 612,000 just in December so far.
We already know what's coming in, right? It's just when.
Yeah, it's just when you get it. You get it all in December, January, and February.
Right.
So any questions on the financials? You are getting 2.75 on both your money market and your operating funds, your checking account.
That's something that should be going up though. I was just
Sure.
reading.
They adjust it every month.
Okay, I was just reading about that. That some places are going as high as 4% on the money.
Yeah, and this is almost as good as a CD.
Right.
The difference though
Okay.
is that we can transfer funds or, a day's notice without any penalty.
Have you searched the banks you deal with as far as?
They're all a minimum of 6 months that you could put. I mean, we could look at that. That's certainly, purchasing a CD is certainly an option. You might be able to pick up a 0.5%.
We could put part of it, since we have
Sure.
more
Yeah.
millions, we could keep $1 million or something
Yeah.
available.
Well, and that's why, next month, I hope, but somehow we need to start that process of how are you going to commit those funds? And that would be the budget amendment. And I brought copies of it, but I sent you a memo when you first came on, said, here's how much money you've got. You've got a lot of money. And, and then you made the decision to pay off the loan, which we did. And so you're still, $4 million you've got in the bank.
Right, we're gonna spend some of that though. We're working on that through the improvements to the
Sure,
water
yeah.
plant.
Now, when Cal says we have a lot of money, we also have a lot of infrastructure situations that we haven't addressed, probably close to double what we've got. So it isn't like we've got extra money to burn. We still have, but we don't have to spend it all in 1 year either.
Right.
One of the issues I see is that we're applying for some different grants. We're gonna have 2 or 3 grants, applications going. If we are successful in the grant applications, we won't need that money. But if we are not successful in the grant applications, then we're gonna have to use up some of that money for capital improvements at the water plant and things. So until we get a little further into the grant program and see if some of these monies can come about, you know,
When are we gonna know when these grants are coming through?
they can take
Months,
years.
And in the meantime, we've got the water plant that's getting ready to fall.
And that's why we're,
I
we just
disagree with that.
established over probably $150,000 or more. Probably more than that.
And
almost
you have
200,000.
that much money in your balance, which you collect in, without touching
Right.
the sale of the land from parcel 13, you've got almost $1 million a year that you get in excess funds that was put for reserves and for capital improvements.
Yes, and that's why we're looking at the new freshwater tank, looking at new
Well,
lines.
when I say
looking
when it's
at-
falling apart, I was talking
Yeah.
about the tank. I wasn't talking about the whole plant.
Yeah, that's still in progress.
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm
we have-
talking
because you
about
might-
we got a great water plant.
Okay, being she just brought that up, and you just went through this with Mitch, what are your feelings about our water treatment system?
Actually, Mitch takes care of several different water facilities at different places. And he likes ours. Okay, ours is kept pretty much up to date. It's a little bit more computer driven than some of them. And to keep that up, we have issues with the SCADA system. That's the computer control system for the water plant. That's on the horizon that we have to bring in a new computer-driven system. It's getting old and not doing the job it should do. We have the water lines from the well fields. We have the lines across the bridge. They're replacing some pumps and stuff in the wastewater treatment right now. We need some new tertiary filters in the wastewater plant, a new system, because we have old sand filters and they have new stainless steel mesh filters that are less maintenance and work better. And if the sand filters plug up, it could shut us down for a period of time while they take care of that. We don't have any redundancy there, so it would shut down the plant entirely. So we have some of that. We're mowing the berms in case we have to shut down the plant. We have to have the berms. There's a containment facility outside the water plant where we can pump the raw sewage into there while we're shut down, so we don't stop taking sewage. There's a whole system there of redundancy, and there's some things we have to fix. We've been at this a month, and we're trying to get a handle on all that and where to spend the money. But we prioritized a couple projects just to get going. One was the freshwater tank. The lines from the well fields are a priority, but we might be able to pick them up under one of the grants here real quick. But whether we do or not, we'll be looking at replacing those lines from the wellheads. And we have one pump that has to be submersed. So the whole pump system for one of the wells has to be changed. Those are all things that have to get done. And we do have a great water plant, but we do have to keep up with our capital improvements to maintain that great water plant.
Yeah. No, I spoke out because I did mean the water. I've been over there when they first opened, and I'm impressed with our water. I mean, we're way above what Collier County's got.
We have a nice water plant, but we do need some maintenance. It's just prioritizing when and where to spend the money and where we might be able to get the grants.
And
that kind of
sorry
thing to help.
And also, some people have got the impression that adding these 100 homes on and so forth is going to require us to add additional equipment and so forth out there. The truth of the matter is we've got a lot of capacity out there that we are not using. So that scenario isn't accurate. We got all kinds of capacity yet before we have to put any more additional money into upgrading.
Absolutely. Mitch and I just had a meeting with the DEP, and it was a result of the chlorine situation that was raised, and they said that your water plant is one of the best that they've seen in the entire state.
And that's due to Mitch. Yeah.
Well, it's a fairly new plant.
He's a good operator.
The wastewater plant's a different issue. It's old, and the new one never worked out, and it's basically been mothballed. But it's what would you say, 30 years old, David?
Probably close, Yeah, 30 years. Yeah, it was built in the early 90s. It was set up as an advanced wastewater treatment facility that actually had wetland discharge at one point. And then we went to the combination fire irrigation system to dispose of the effluent along with the RO concentrate. So, yeah, the plant's a little bit old. It was set up, again, as a more sophisticated wastewater treatment facility because it had to meet the wetland discharge limits. And that's, by doing what we are doing now, it's a little lesser discharge requirements that we have to have and meet. But yeah, it's starting to get some age on it. Some of the components are starting to wear. And of course, it's like anything. The cars 30 years ago were one thing, but they're a whole lot different today, a lot more improved. Same thing with the wastewater treatment facilities and the components there.
But that stuff's in your CIP, right? We already are.
A lot of the projects have been identified in the CIP, and that CIP was put together in consultation with Mitch at the time. Again, things have changed. Different things maybe have aged quicker than what we anticipated a couple, 3 years ago when we first started with some of the CIP work.
It's all manageable.
It's all manageable, yeah. Some of the things that were mentioned kind of surprised me. I didn't know that we had one well completely out at this point. I didn't know about that myself.
I'm not saying that it's out. I'm saying that one of them, there's 2 submerged pumps and one that is not submerged. And as part of the.
Well, all the well field pumps are submersible pumps that pull the groundwater up and into the system.
Right.
And there's 3 wells that are out there, and basically 2 of the 3 wells in operation should satisfy the demand,
right,
future demand too. Now, I'm sure if some of the pumps you're talking about may be on the wastewater side or where. I'm just not aware of it. I wasn't aware of any issues there.
All right. Okay, thank you. We're getting into the weeds here now. Let's keep going with Cal.
Okay, the financials, unless there's no questions, we need to accept them.
Just curious, why no November invoices? Are they? I thought they were all just Octobers. Is there Novembers in there as well?
There should have been.
Okay.
They might have made a mistake. I'm not sure.
I thought I just saw, but okay, either way, okay.
But they probably, the October ones would have been the ones that were paid, but we didn't have the invoices yet. We accrued it.
Okay.
But there should be November ones right up until the end of November. I know that the engineers wasn't in there, but that was paid in December.
Okay.
And so it'll be, in your next, your December financials. It's
okay.
just when they're paid and when we get them.
Motion to accept financials. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
The next item, I think we should table it until we've got more time to talk about what are the improvements that you had. And that November memo I sent out, I've got copies if anyone needs it. Gives you an idea of, where your funds are. The budget won't show those because they've always used the fund balance, which is your cash in your bank, that might not necessarily be reflected in it would show as use of other funds if you're going to pull from that. But you have to look at the balance sheet to be able to see how much cash you actually have. I think be prepared to, come up with some recommendations where we'll amend the budget. You don't have to even do it next month. You can do it 3-4 months from now. But at some point in time, we need to know what type of capital projects do you want, and then reflect the revenue that's coming in.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I believe that is everything.
And about
had.
update on our.
I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't see this other page. I passed out the one thing that I had, and that is the expenses to date. And the longer one at the top, those are actual expenses that have been incurred because of Irma. And you see 26,758 is the amount. Most of it was to utility systems for repair of that road. And then what we're preparing which would be projects and projected costs, everything behind it. We just keep adding to that list. So, as, you know, Mitch or David or someone tells us that something should be added to that, we will. Or it might be something that we generate, but this would be on here. And we're working on both the road elevating and replacing the water line coming out. Those are the two, and the generator, but the generator is already, you know, established.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've got ideas, bring it to me, and then at some point in time when, you know, the chairman feels that you're ready to discuss this, then we'll adjust the budget after the meeting and then bring it back to you for approval.
All right.
Okay? The loan payoff, like I said, was paid off. There was some interest incurred, $3,000, I think, but it's the interest stopped the day it was paid off, which was the 1st of December.
So if you've got any idea off the top of your head what we paid to establish that loan and how much interest we paid on it? Ballpark?
I want to say the loan was 12,000 to process it. And then the interest that incurred was a little over 3,000.
So you're looking 20 grand or less?
Yeah, probably about 15.
Okay. Good enough.
That was our first interest payment, the $3,000?
No, that was just the interest that had built up to that time.
Right, but we had prior interest payments on that loan, right?
Yeah, that was
The loan was
the
taken
initial. We had to pay in November.
That was part of the 12,000?
No.
No, the 12,000 was the bank fee.
Okay, so 12,000 plus.
Plus other interest payments.
Plus
the three.
Yeah, what do you suppose, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you suppose the other interest payment was?
I'd have to see what it is. I think we ran that through the general fund.
When did we take that loan out? What was the date we took that loan out?
What's that?
What was the date we took that loan out?
August maybe?
August, and then we pay monthly interest?
No, but it is charged monthly.
Well, let's just move
Or
on.
daily, I guess.
That's not enough. What else do you have?
Let's see, and then you had asked for RFQs on engineering, and I gave you several copies of ones that we've used in other communities.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
in the package.
All right. That's it?
That's all I have.
Our attorney's outside yet, so we'll jump past that to old business. Tabled proposal on asphalt repair on Newport Drive and Union Road. Have we ever had a proposal at what it would cost us to redo Union Road or Newport? Newport Drive?
You did, you added it, but it's pretty old. But it was 55 or 60,000 to do Newport Drive. That was in an old capital improvement program.
Yeah, we'd have to look again at what the CIP established, had to add and update some costs and so
The
forth.
thing is, didn't we pay 150 for?
Yeah, it was close to 150,000 for Salamarsa North, but that included some valley gutter replacement and so forth.
But I mean, Newport's hugely
It's a
compared
lot
to that
longer,
length.
it's a lot longer and so forth.
And it's two sides.
Right, right. Well, it's single lane each side. It's a little bit bigger than a normal lane. What is it, about 15 foot probably on each side versus 12 foot typical driving lane?
It's 18 foot, 12 foot, and then the bicycle path, I believe. But whatever, yeah. It's sort of narrow.
I'm not sure. It's not, it's more than 12 foot, but it's.
Yeah, it's sort of narrow.
But it's not 24 foot.
Well, it's even bigger, if I may.
Huh?
It's even wider before it goes down to the 15 foot. It's wider at the entrance.
Correct.
And then, because almost 2 cars could pass each, and one
Right.
car
Yeah,
could pass
bottlenecks, yeah.
before you get to the single lane.
David, is that, in the service report, we talked about the alligatoring of some of that road over there. You know, when the ground got so wet and saturated with everything, is that what maybe caused it to get much worse lately?
It could have been a cause. The roads themselves were getting to a point where they were probably needing some road work anyway.
Okay.
I would say driving in this morning, it looked like Union Road was starting to deteriorate even quicker. But I'm not sure how long the water sat on the road and what the elevated water table is out here at this point.
You're talking in front of the condos, not out beyond, right?
Let's, I was talking about when I drove in today on Union Road.
Oh, just
It
here.
looked like
Okay.
the alligatoring was greater than what I had
I
seen in
agree.
the past.
I agree.
But as far as the cause, I couldn't tell you immediately if it was caused by the storm.
Higher water tables?
What influences the life of the pavement is a lot of times the water table itself, how high or elevated that water table gets,
Right.
because you like to keep the base rock itself dry and maybe even some of the subgrade.
Right.
And of course, I couldn't tell you how long it's been since some of those roads been paved. I'd have to go back and look at some records. I know some of those roads were paved in the 2000s, early 2000s. I'm not sure Union's seen much repaving at this
No,
point.
because they've been putting it off till that 13 was sold and do it all at once.
Right.
So it's just been pushed off.
Right, and again, it's a matter of how much we want to do on Union Road at this time too, because we know in the next year or so, we'll see some heavier
I agree.
construction traffic on that, but you can't let it get to a point where it's falling apart and it's
And you
unsafe.
can't fix it.
And you can't fix it.
Right.
Now, part of the issue with Newport that I've absorbed in the past is a lot of root growth getting underneath the pavement and cracking it and so forth. And that's due to the larger trees and so forth and the roots. And the only way to prevent that, and it's not foolproof, is put root barriers down and so forth to prevent the roots from getting underneath the pavement and pushing it up.
That's not even fail-proof though.
That's, like I said, it's not fail-proof.
And that's
it
what's
works somewhat,
causing-
but not 100%.
That's what's causing it, except for over by the realty office there. It looks like they must have underground something there. And
Yeah.
But that's the other thing then, and I see that they're out there with spray cans circling stuff like on the walkways where there's a bump and so forth. How much liability are we under now? We've established that we have an issue. How long before we need to fix that issue? Go for it.
The Florida law requirement is that if you are aware of a hazard, you have 2 choices, 2 steps you can take. One is identify it and identify it to the public as a whole so they're aware of it. That's the markings and the warnings, and or fix it. But the spray painting is the attempt to minimize or eliminate liability by making people aware of the hazard. And you see that everywhere in the counties and the cities. They'll put up little signs and caution, you know. And so until you get to it, you need to get to it in a reasonable period of time, or keep putting cones there, or keep putting flags, or keep spray painting so that people are aware of the hazard.
I'm just
They're
wondering.
not very attractive.
I'm wondering if it's in a bad spot until we get it fixed, if we should get some of those little cones, you know, and put by the side.
You know what, the more cones, the better, in my humble opinion, quite frankly. I mean, yeah, they saw them about this tall. They could be.
Yeah, I'm just worried that we are in a liability situation because we know that they're bad and we haven't addressed it other than paint a line around it.
And those are relatively inexpensive to get those. So again, I would encourage that.
Okay.
The more the better.
Yeah, the downside of the cones
People
is,
take
of course, people take them and drive over them and have fun with them, see how many they can knock down on a given day.
Okay.
Signs would be another option too to have, that you do it signage.
Okay.
Saying uneven pavement, use caution on uneven pavement, some things like that could help minimize the liability and the risk.
You want to give us your report?
Yeah, briefly, I apologize.
No problem.
I had to take, we've gone over a number of items I've been involved with. One item I'd like direction from the board on, maybe put in the next agenda item. Richard DeBost is the attorney for Stella Mars, Master Homeowners Association. I know Richard. He does condo and HOA law. And back in September, just before Ian, he sent me an email and he followed up with me about 2 weeks ago, where he says he represents Stella Maris and the president at that time, Sam Lashir, so I represent Port of the Islands, and they're talking about Tract R. And the question was whether or not, I guess part of the plat of Stella Mars reflects one of the roadway tracks is still held in the name of the developer, Harbor Club Development, Inc., which was administratively dissolved. And that the dedication, it says that dedicated the tract to CID with the obligation of maintenance. And what Richard DeBose wants to do, and I'll get with him at the board's authorization between now and the next meeting, put this on as an agenda item to see if the board wants to work with the Stella Maris Association or Harbor, to see if we can get a deed from a remaining trustee of the dissolved corporation. What happens in Florida, when a corporation is dissolved, the officers at the time of dissolution become a trustee for that entity. And a single one of the former directors, officers can sign a quitclaim deed for the dissolved corporation. So that's just something as a heads up on my.
I think we need to do that.
Okay, I'd like your authorization to communicate with Richard, then put together a package for the next board meeting.
How much?
I can't tell you until I can give you a not to exceed.
There you go.
Not to exceed 500.
Okay.
So that's because, I mean, again, Richard he's not a gabby talker.
Gotcha.
I try not to get with him and I would
What
suggest.
about you?
And I would, you know what? I don't burn budgets. Let me put it that way. I don't burn a budget. But what I'll ask him to do the heavy lifting.
Okay.
You please put together your rationale, put together the package, what you propose, and then I'll circulate to the board, and then I'll have a recommendation for the board at that time.
All right.
If they want to proceed, I can do just a short memo. If the board wants to proceed, here's what you need.
Right.
Okay.
Is that tract R, is that like 10 feet along the seawall?
I don't know. He says it's a road.
I think the street itself is still in.
Yeah.
Not,
Tract R is the roadway
Yeah, the
known
whole
as Stella
street.
Maris Drive South.
Yeah.
I make the motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Appreciate that. And just occasionally working with, to try to keep Lindsay's project on course. If I get anything in, I'll coordinate with the chair on that.
Perfect.
Now,
Look at an easement agreement to take over that road?
you mean Stella Mars?
Yeah.
I would, once again, what I'm going to suggest to Richard, he put together the package. I'll say, Richard, put together a package that would consist of what y'all want to do and the form of the documents, give me the title work, and I'll put together a memo to the board saying, here's what he's provided. If you want to take it over, here's what you need.
That's
And
good.
part of it might be, and once again, dedicate, whether or not, and this becomes a policy question for the board, whether or not you want to have an engineering review performed to determine the physical condition of that roadway tract.
Yeah,
Perfect.
before we take it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
those are always fun items.
I know.
Nothing else to report unless the board has questions.
Oh, I have a question. I was going through the invoices and I noticed that when we were putting political signs out, there was a question about whether or not it was legal to put them on our property. And I noticed in the invoices that we spent $1,772 to answer that question.
I don't think it was that much. I'll go back and double check.
It was.
Okay.
How can we spend almost $1,800 to tell us whether or not we can have a sign on our right of way?
Well, it wasn't whether or not I could have a sign the right of way. Political signs, the issue was free speech, there were First Amendment issues, and there was a lot of going back and forth on that. I can show you the emails. If you want me to revisit it, I can go back and revisit.
No, I don't want to revisit.
No, revisit the building. No, I don't charge for revisiting buildings.
Well, I'm just, to me, that should have, I mean, basically you could have went to the rules of procedures and it says right in there that you can't have those signs on a right of way. And I don't know how we could have spent so darn much money coming up with that answer.
Well, there's political signs have a different category than other commercial signs. That was the concern. They have a different level of protection. And so they have a heightened level of scrutiny with regards to political signs and the First Amendment and other. So that's what we wanted to make sure that didn't expose the district to liability, to minimize it. So I'll go back and revisit it.
Gotcha.
I have no problem.
Okay.
I never had problems going back and looking at bills of a client.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other old business anyone has?
What did you guys want to do with fixing those roads? This was last meeting. There was a proposal for the asphalt repairs on Newport Drive and Union Road.
We just talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
We didn't make a
You
decision.
haven't made a decision.
There was a proposal, I think, that was sent out on that by,
It wasn't in the packet. It was
I
sent
didn't
out.
see, or I don't remember
For
seeing
the
that.
last meeting.
somewhere, I've got a copy of it somewhere.
I saw it, there's three, yeah, one is 500 square feet, another one is a couple hundred square feet, another one.
Oh, I do remember that now, but I don't remember what the numbers were. It wasn't a lot of money.
No.
Let's see, maybe we should fix it.
Find it.
Is that the road?
I make a motion that we, go ahead and fix them.
Well, they're having, we were gonna look at the roads.
Yeah, we're still.
But we're still
gonna
just
do
gonna
that.
patch
We're still gonna do that.
You just, it's like,
I mean, I think eventually we're gonna have to do the whole road, but for right now, I think we
When you
need to
come into
fix
the season.
the little, the little issues.
you want patching before you,
Well, we're talking hundreds of dollars, right?
thousands.
It wasn't.
It was like 3,000, wasn't
Is
it?
it that much?
Yeah, it's about 3,000. But I
Do we
mean,
have a choice?
I'm fine.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any other old business?
Dan, you voted aye?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Anything else? New business, anybody have anything on that? We talked to Mitch about a utility plant tour. Hopefully we'll set that up in February. Maybe we can figure out how to make some kind of a community event out of that at the same time. And also, I suppose, while we're out there, you can be looking at what Lindsay Case may have planned out there and where it's gonna lay out and, what we might be seeing, where the ponds are gonna go and, that type of thing.
At least maybe a map.
Maybe he would come, yeah.
Post a map, where people can look at the map
Yeah, sure.
and make it a community thing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other new business? No? Supervisors' requests and or comments? Well, I've got one. I want to make a motion to terminate our management contract, 60 days notice.
Oh, you don't have to do that. We were gonna terminate it anyhow. So,
You guys are gonna pull out?
Yeah.
Oh, nobody told us.
well, I was gonna wait and see what happened today and I mean, if you don't want us around, we don't want to be around. And, we're losing money on the contract anyhow.
Okay, well, that is good for everybody.
Sure.
But you'll be here another 60 days, correct?
We'll finish out our contract,
When?
60 days.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, I'm not sure we've done anything wrong.
I'm not placing blame on you for anything. What mainly it is we've had the same hierarchy in here for decades, over the years.
We've been here 6 years.
Well, but you were here before that as well with Severed Trent. But what I'm just getting at is we want to try to get some fresh ideas that has no reflection on you, and especially personally.
But if we would have stayed, I was gonna bring another manager in anyhow. So, but that aside, how do you want to, are you just gonna go out and hire somebody or?
We'll have to.
Well, I mean, you should do RFPs and
Correct.
know what it's gonna cost you. Do you want your attorney to prepare those?
Is that something you could do? RFPs? Or is it conflict of?
I, as a conflict.
Okay. Kathy, you got something for us?
No,
I'm just
Okay.
mesmerized.
Just 2 points. What I suggest is that we prepare actually a termination of contracts. We have a definite date as opposed to saying 60
Gotcha.
days. So Cal, would it be the end of February, February 28th, just to make it nice and even? Would be the
Sure.
termination?
Yeah.
It's not a leap year, is it?
I don't know.
So February 28th. What I would suggest is that the board authorize preparation of a termination agreement between Premier District Management and the district with an effective date. The agreement will terminate on February 28, 2023.
Please,
So if I have a motion and a second and a vote
I
on that.
make a motion that we do the termination.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Uh,
What do we need a termination agreement if we quit?
Because it's.
I'd like to have clarity as to date and
It's
time.
because that's what the contract calls for.
Yeah, as opposed to just saying 60 days from today,
Yeah.
it may fall on an odd day. It's just, let me just make sure the 28th isn't a Sunday.
For my own peace of mind, I'm assuming that the rest of the board was in agreement with this.
We haven't discussed it.
February 28th is a Tuesday. Next is, I have some templates for district management RFQs, RFPs, if the board's inclined to go that route. And names of various managers that I could work with the chairman on if the board's so inclined to do two things. One is put a notice in the paper. Secondly, send an email out to the various district managers or management firms. If that's the board's inclination, that's how they want to proceed.
Well, we'd have to come up with a list of ones we want.
Sure.
We'd have to go somewhere.
Well,
Come up with a list.
I've been looking, and basically what I do is I look at other CDDs around here that are about the same size as us and who is representing them. And probably will call their chairman and ask them, how's this going and so forth. But I've also been approached already by another firm.
The old Southern Trent firm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not Severn Trent anymore. That Severn Trent was a European company, and now it's an American company under a new name and new management and whatnot.
It's Infomark, but I think it's the same parent.
You work with them, correct?
Not anymore. Well, they do financial services for Gateway only.
Okay.
The Gateway has gone to an in-house district manager, but Infomark does some financial administrative services for them.
Okay.
But I believe it's still the same larger organization, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but.
And they have people here in Naples.
I don't deal with the people in Naples. The people I deal with are the financial folks, and they're on the East Coast, and they do the minutes as well as they help on financing matters and financial administrative matters.
Okay.
And a good
I
working
think they're in
relationship with
Coral
them.
Gables.
Well, they got,
Yeah, they're in Philadelphia and Houston, I think, and Coral Gables and.
What about?
but that's just one we're looking at. I mean, that's only one.
Well, and again.
I shouldn't say we are looking at, that's just one.
And again, if the board's,
We could do in-house.
if it's the board's desire, I could work with the chairman on the scope of the RFQ and send it out. And then otherwise you'd end up having to wait till the next board meeting if you all want to look at it.
What do you think?
It's the scope of services as well as who to send them
Is that
out.
good for you?
What's that?
Or him and I work together?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
And I can, again, I have some old templates of old RFQs and you can say, this is what we want. No, this is not a list of services we want. And put that in there. And then it can always be added as an addendum later on if the board says, hey, put such and such in there.
All right, thank you.
So, yeah, I think that, I don't know if the board needs any further direction on that, other than they have a consensus of the board. It's good.
Okay. Any other board comments?
I'm good.
Okay, and then last thing, audience comments. Anyone, any comments? Guess what? It's 11:54. Adjourned, or I gotta make an motion to adjourn.
We'll give you a gavel. That way you can just gavel it.
You know what? Russ has got one laying in his house. He's gone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Take some cookies with you.
Oh, the agenda pack.
Go.
I received, I know you can't believe
Well,
everything on
the
Nextdoor.
question is whether.
I don't even, I'm not even
But
on it.
I'm just saying, I was on Nextdoor about the questions I had about the last meeting, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's a gentleman that's on there, I have no idea who he is, but he says he pays no water whatsoever. Water
Well,
goes
yeah, I
he
have,
lives in a home.
I write it.
And he doesn't get
I've
water
got a
bill.
number.
No. Well, then let him know who it is, so we can make sure he gets one.
Some say that no, what's his address?
I have no idea.
So, where does he live?
How the heck can he not have a water bill?
See, because I
wasn't
said, I hope you, we were joking around about anybody that attends the meeting today gets a unicorn. I said, well, I hope that your unicorn, I hope you attend,
Yeah.
because you could use a unicorn to go with your rainbows if you say you don't pay any water. And he said that he doesn't pay water. Single family homes don't pay for any water. We get water for the house irrigation for free. It's subsidized by the condo fees. Now,
He's messing with
saying-
you.
and that's what, and then he said, and I said,
You want your direct deposit?
so
then
you're
I need
saying
your
you don't
check
pay,
right
get a
here.
water bill every month? And he said, no, none of the individual houses pay for water. We also don't pay for property taxes in the county. So he's got to be joking. I'm just asking.
I don't have a check yet.
Yeah, because he said we don't pay county taxes.
He's playing with, he's
You
playing
gotta
with
be playing with me. Okay, I'm just checking, because I live in a condo, so.
But I figured everybody in houses did. Oh, Cal, you meant to put my deposit? Okay. Yeah, I can bring one.
No, I need it
for the state of Florida.
I thought I said.
Oh.
I thought one that.
Oh, well, I can take this. Did you already give us that? I think she has something set up, but I'll take that if you want. Just write Boyd on that.
And I thank you.
I thought I turned his in.
Appreciate that input.
I filled these out once already.
Both of these
Oh.
need to be signed here.
Okay. Those are the two to be signed?
Yeah. I do have extra copies of that.
No.
You need this?
This is, I think, yeah, I think I need that.
Okay, take this
Okay.
because I wasn't sure whether he ever
And
got it.
then we needed a check for $10 to Department of State.
I sent that out to you. the check.
Yeah, we have your check. This is the thing. She just needs that stuff, and we got all yours.
Okay, I thought I gave you these two, because I filled them all out. Did I give them to?
It might have gone to one of the other admins.
Okay. I'll do them again. I did them the same time I did that whole check thing.
Steve,
Okay, Cal, this.
I'm just saying.
I got you.
oh, okay.
That's what I heard. There's a lot of stuff I hear.
No, I also brought that up with Reed. You want to look at that?
Three.
I've been there,
That's
done that.
199 Case Drive.
Oh, Karen, there.
It's a thankless job.
I don't know whether this, I don't have.
It is, it is.
The
16th.
2 days.
I don't have.
The attorney.
Well, I work 4 days full time.
Okay.
Two from home, two from my church.
I'll send it to Tony about recording it.
So, I mean, I've got.
See if he has any better luck.
And,
Which?
St. Mark's.
This.
Lost my husband
I
10
think
years
somebody's
ago.
mad at
I
me.
was in St. Mark's for 9 years. I volunteered for the first year and then they hired me. So I'm an office assistant.
Keep you busy.
Yeah.
Keep your brain busy.
Except for the 3 weeks that, well, 4 weeks. that I couldn't do it. Today, I mean, even sitting there, my ankles swelling. He said it'll take a while.
All right, pull these tables down.
That and
Come back.
the swelling goes down.
for Soto.
There was a time when it would swell. It took 2 or 3 days for the swelling to go down. My PT told me as long as it goes down overnight.
Yeah.
Repeating all of that, nothing.
What's that? Yeah.
That's my coach. Be back. Lord have mercy.
Where's the regular procedure on this?
Great, because I've got to go home and have lunch, and I have to go to TV. You have to go home and watch TV, or have to go continue. I was telling everybody who's supposed to be in, to need more chance. I thought it kind of really and then.